All right, first song of the day today. We are celebrating reaching 365 entries in the Song of the Day series, one for every day of the year. So you can enjoy a full year of Kitsta curated music. Of course, the vast majority of these are on my blog here. And the video section is much smaller, but is increasing much faster because it's a lot easier to make videos than blog posts, which has been kind of the defining revelation of a lot of my content production strategies over the last few years. Anyways, so we're gonna look at one of my favorite songs of all time, a song that I would put into contention as one of the greatest songs of all time. To make a distinction between those two, not only is it something that very personally I find extremely moving and has soundtracked a lot of the really kind of memorable emotional experiences of my life, if not the actual event, then in kind of reminiscence afterwards. A song that I find appealing in all sorts of personal ways to me, things that I personally like in music, but also something that is just so well crafted, so beautifully done in so many ways that it deserves every label of masterpiece, of an achievement, of a triumph in songwriting, in lyrics, in method and mode, and oh, I cannot praise it enough. So this is the fourth song on Joanna Newsom's masterpiece album, Yeez. Um, I've heard her say that four of the songs on Yeez, four of the five songs, each relate to some specific incident in her life that kind of tell in an allegorical and kind of mystified sense a very real thing that happened to her, and in all cases, kind of a sad thing. And then Only Skin, which in many ways seems much less metaphorical, which seems to be telling in some ways much more real stories, she said is kind of like an unwrapping of it. That she took these four incidents and tried to kind of make sense out of something as a whole. Um, and I feel like the true extent to which that is true, like the full extent, sorry, the real lesson that she may have learned or delivered here is just forever going to be beyond us. But that's all right. That is, that's just what happens when you really make personal music, when you make music that is really your most intimate life coming forth in a creative process. But we can do our best. We can do our best to try to puzzle out what's going on here. So the song is very long. It's 16 minutes long, and it has a formlessness that is really captivating and quite mysterious, I think. It takes you quite a few listens to really be able to even anticipate how it's going to break down and work. There's no simple verse, chorus, verse structure. Um, and I find on Yee's, much more than any of her other albums, she displays almost an innocent, kind of outsider perspective on what a song even is. Like this song, the previous one, Sawdust and Diamonds, opens with kind of like a long kind of pull on a violin. And then this one, too, has the same kind of intro, but there's like an even longer silence before it. And the opening lines, and there was a booming above you that night. Already we get like a double reference to something unsaid, to something unspoken. And it just immediately kind of goes into this verse that feels like it's been transplanted from the middle of some other song. Um, the way that it kind of breaks its own um, kind of patterns already. It feels like something that's transgressive and boundary breaking out of an established pattern already, and yet it's the opening lines of the song. Um, and already we start getting these haunting metaphors and images that we have no idea what they're relating to. Black airplanes flew over the sea, okay, and they were lowing and shifting like beach whales, shelled snails, as you strained and you squinted to see the retreat of their hairless and blind cavalry. So who is there? Who is lowing and shifting? Who is this they? I don't think it's the black airplanes. It's something that they're observing because the booming was above us of the black airplanes that flew over the sea. So already it's like, you have no idea what's going on. All you know is that there's two people standing out at some sort of beach looking at something. They were lowing and shifting. Froze in your sandshell, prayed for your poor soul. Sky seemed a bread roll, soaking in a milk bowl. There's too much to talk about in terms of the lyrical genius and beauty that comes through here and all of her small syllable choices and such. All I really want to emphasize is just how strange it is that we have this verse and then these short mini verses, these kind of like truncated things, these really mysterious images. My sleeping heart woke and my waking heart spoke. Silence you took to mean something. Mean, run, sing, for alive you will evermore be. Oh my god. It goes on here. There's, I don't know. I don't even know how to begin talking about this song, really. Any sort of systematic analysis is just too overwhelming. It would take hours to comb through if we went at it in any sort of thorough way. But just this, the way they've broken these paragraphs here on Rap Genius, I sometimes disagree with, but here I think they've actually nailed it quite clearly. That each of these sections is actually extremely different in how it's structured and how the enjambment works and how the lines are broken down. I'm fresh, undressed, and yawning. I can hear it so vividly in my head when I read these lyrics that it's almost hypnotic. It's almost trance-inducing. And the use of this kind of colloquial conversational speech, calling him darling. What is this craziness? This crazy talking. Got some small death when you were sleepwalking. And yet, instantly it can switch. Look at how this develops. It was a dark dream, darling, it's over. The fire breather is beneath the clover. And then it comes through so clear in the music, this insistence. Beneath his breathing, there is cold clay forever. A toothless hound dog choking on a feather. So again, it's all just kind of images. The kind of narrative that you can build from just these disconnected images is haunting and strange, but not really completive. Completive? What? Complete or cohesive? Apparently that is now a word called completive. I took my fishing pole, fearing your fever, down to the swimming hole. Again, these kind of like colloquial, country, hick type vocabulary. The swimming hole. There grows a bitter herb that blooms but one day a year by the riverside. I'd bring it here. The kind of biblicalness of it, where all that persists is these disconnected images and disconnected sentiments. That clearly she's doing something very devotional here. Clearly she's doing something to express her love and her sympathy, and yet we don't really understand what it is. And then this is the first major shift. This is the first time that you start to maybe perceive an overall shape of the song. And again, these images that we don't quite understand. So much of the sea, so much of rowing. It's so good. It's so good. And yet I cannot put together at all. Ah, it's too good. It's too good. This is maybe the limitation of the video format, is that in a blog, if I was just writing, I would have the time to stop and collect myself and to maybe try to come up with something more sensible to say. But here, all the things I had planned to say have been obliterated and swept away by the sheer emotional force of just reading these words and hearing so clearly in my head this music that is so special and important to me. This line, of course, I think must be important. It's where the title is dropped. You can tell that I'm deliberately not clicking on this because I don't want to see what a bunch of nerds on Genius think. At least not right now. Um, Scrape your knee, it is only skin, makes the sound of violins. And then, so the general narrative seems to be of love and devotion in kind of a sad apocalyptic state full of sad and distressing images. Then when the fire of this passion that's making them cling together in these unfortunate times moves away, why would you say I was the last one? Wondering, like, why is it that we're so devoted to this relationship? Why is it that we're so compellingly close? So this starts coming out stronger and stronger in the lyrics, I think. I would connect these two. This is the first time I disagree. I think that this entire section is one part of the story. Ah, oh God, it's too clever, these lyrics. Scrap of sassafras, a Sisyphus. Sassafras being a cure for syphilis, which is a match, of course, with Sisyphus etymologically. And Sisyphus, of course, being the one that rolls the boulder up the hill repeatedly and watches it cascade back down. Like him clambering up the mountainside, groping blindly, hungry for anything. I have watched 1,000 spiders down the drain. Spiders, ghost hangs, soaked and dangling, silent from all the change. Ah, okay, so this we start to see the connection, the spiderweb, if you will, to the other stories on this album, which most of them, Joanna Newsom being a very private person in many manners, have never been confirmed explicitly. But many people think that Emily is about a child that she lost. Or on some metaphorical, the idea of a child that she lost. And this too, is this like an abortion metaphor or something? Be a woman. Knowing how the I don't know why this is in parenthesis. It's too much maybe. And this part too, the royal of this part, the churning sea-like vivid poeticness of it. Awful atoll, oh incalculable indiscreetness and sorrows. Ball below, Sybil sea cow all done up in a ball. Toddle and toll teeth an impalpable bit of leather while yarrow, heather and hollyhock awkwardly molt along the shore. What is this? Is she a reincarnation of James Joyce? That is the only plausible explanation I have left. The poetic soul that springs forth from her seems so ancient, so perfect, that it seems to speak to us from idealized ancestral places. It's nearly incomprehensible, and yet it speaks so vividly. This, of course, is a famous line. Stay with me for a while, that's an awfully real gun. This, again, seems like it hints. There's such moments of realness in this song. Snippets of stories that you can only imagine actually happened. Was there a time that, inconsolable, he showed up with a gun, perhaps threatening suicide? I don't know. I don't know. See what you anointed and putting your gun down. Lay it down. Nice and slow. There is nowhere to go save up. This I think should go in the previous section, and this may be a new one. Back on the patio, watching the bats bring night in. This is the connection to Cosmia, the song after this, which features prominently the idea of night coming in as a poetic theme. So this is the first major break. This, I think, is the halfway point of the song. And this is such a beautiful ending that brings all our way back to the idea of these mysterious things lowing and shifting out in the sea, retreating, their hairless and blind cavalry. As of course the same things here. The estuaries of wax white wend endlessly towards seashores unmapped. And there's only the briefest break. And again, it almost has this sort of outsider perspective on the overall structure of the song, that it doesn't really make sense. It reminds me of something I was saying about Fukumoto, of all things, where it seems like most directors, most artists, when thinking structurally, will work back from the greatest climax and set up everything else for favorable conditions to really heighten the impact of that climax. Whereas here, we're like in Fukumoto, instead of the dramatic showdown in the rain, they're hanging out in the bathroom. And here, when we have a moment of almost like mind-boggling poetic significance in tying this entire song back together, the song doesn't end, and it barely even acknowledges that something has happened. There's the briefest pause, and then with like this bizarre jauntiness, she starts telling what I imagine is a true story of a bird smacking into their window. It's a very poetically told story. It has these, again, kind of like a biblical type of proclamation that she gives it. Dog, nor vulture, nor cat shall toy with you, and though you die, bird, you will have a fine view. This, again, this bizarre mixture of mysteriousness and folksy, immediate connection. Again, with like this relentlessly shifting and changing tone, the way the polyrhythms and harp come in as she talks about picking up the bird and clambering up the tree with it. And of course, the dogs were snapping, so you cuff their collars. Dogs still run roughly round, little tufts of finch down. Seems to connect back here to this idea of, where is it? A toothless hound dog choking on a feather. I don't know. I don't know. What can be said? So, of course, she takes the bird to the top of the treetop, and it wakes up and flies away. What is this a metaphor for? Is it her? Is she the bird herself? That, in showing herself just a little pity, in trying to save herself from humiliation beyond death, she realizes that she's still full of life? Then saw the treetops? All it took was for her to see the treetops? I'm not sure. I love this line, perhaps more than any other in the song. Nah, I don't even know if that's true, but it's up there. The cities we passed were a flickering wasteland, but his hand in my hand made them hale and harmless. I love his thundering, blissful towards death, and a stampede of its fumbling green gentleness. Here we see a rhythmic and tonal relapse or repeat. You stopped by, I was all alive. It's delivered in the same way as Press on Me, We Are Restless Things. So, I don't know. I don't know what that means, but that's pretty rare. There's few of these sections mirror each other in any way, shape, or form. And when you wept, I was gone. See, I got gone when I got wise, but I can't with certainty say we survived. And this is a very common theme, both throughout this album and even more prominently in Have One on Me, of her leaving an abusive relationship. And it's not really clear who it was with, although I've read things that seem to really suggest it was Smog, it was Bill Callahan, who's another kind of folk musician who's really made some very beautiful music in his own right. I don't know, maybe I'm reporting totally inaccurate gossip right now. Um, but it seems like at the very least there was someone with whom she had a very kind of tortured and unhappy relationship that drove them both to very kind of self-destructive ends. One that she doesn't seem to blame him for or herself for, but just is kind of a, I don't know, down and down, sound and deeper, stroke without sound, the blameless flames. Oh man. And then of course this brings us out again. Say it was the last one. And then this is the really confusing part, that if it was Bill Callahan, this duet where she alternates lines with a male singer is with Bill Callahan, right? Or have I gone totally crazy? I suppose we can click it, and I'm sure it would tell us. Yeah. Anyways, this is probably my favorite part of the song. It's buried almost 13 minutes deep into this song. And again, it feels like anyone who wants to do standard songwriting, who wants to make songs for people instead of an almost hypergraphic, confessional, therapeutic songwriting, which is what I believe we're seeing here, would have, the normal thing to do would have been to bring this out, to make this a kind of a more obvious centerpiece or climax. But it almost just seems to occur nearly randomly, so deep into this song. But it's so compelling. It's like almost fugue-like in its complexity of all the instrumentation happening, and then this kind of, it feels adversarial, this conversation happening between them. Cool. Oh my god, it's too good. It's a little too good, isn't it? Don't you think it's a little too good for someone to say, come across the desert with no shoes on? Oh my lord. Ah, ah, ah. And then the ending, I find, is such an anticlimax, too. This part is, like, an intense yell that she does. Clear the room, there's a fire, get going. And all of the musicality starts to kind of break down here. And then this final little stanza, I have no idea what to make of it. If the lover woman or two dear couldn't move you to such heights, then all I can do is do my right by. And then it just ends. There's no outro. There's no recapitulation. There's no kind of segue or anything. It's just, it's so weird. It's so weird. It really feels like every little grain of this song means something to her. That when she plays it and when she writes it, all of it is rubbing against her. That she can feel every little edge to it. And yet so much of it, for all of my analysis, I'm sure if I'd made this video at the height of my Joanna Newsom frenzy and such, that I would it would take a couple hours at least. Because for a while I was very seriously studying a lot of kind of lyrical references between, you know, Emily and the other songs on this album, trying to piece together the stories that it's trying to tell. trying to see where images reoccur and what that would mean. And it's like we can get close, I think. We can get close to some sort of satisfying meaning. But more importantly, I think, is just that to get lost in it, to really feel that that sense of disorientation almost, where you just don't understand what is coming next. You don't understand why she does what she does. I don't know. I don't know. I was like, dang, 365 songs of the day. I gotta do something special. I'll talk about Only Skin. I just listened to this album a bit ago. I'm sure I can come up with some sensible things to say. That was probably an impossible mission. It's a song that is way too far beyond me. All right, we'll probably talk about Joanna Newsom sometime in the future. You should listen to this album though. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's really, really, really beautiful. Okay, bye bye.